once the language painted on the walls spoke only of gangs and violence and hatred, now the messages are about hope, written in the language of self-worth and love.
That's what we're called to do. We're called to go where love has not yet arrived, to stand with those on the margins, stand with those whose dignity has been denied, stand with those who society easily despises, stand with those whose burdens are more than they can bear.
And where once gangs of enemies stood, at war as much with the hopelessness of their circumstances with one another, now there are former foes working side by side to a common end, transforming their old lives of anger and violence into futures of peace and even happiness. And how does that happen?
Because what they discover is something way better than their gang, and that's community.
This particular community is HOMEBOY Industries. It's more than a business, it's a movement. Its mission and its vision are to show the way down a new road into a new life to young men and women who once saw no other path than reckless crime, no other option than pointless violence.
Life here is very engaging, very full, very joyous, very heartbreaking. It's all the things, you know. There's not a emotion that doesn't get played out on your heart.
Its founder is Father Gregory Boyle, a Jesuit priest as fluent in Spanish as he is in the language of faith. Once he was pastor of Dolores Mission, the poorest church in the Los Angeles Archdiocese. In the jails and in the hospitals, he is a man who has visited and counseled thousands of young men and women, a man who has buried more than 115 of those he knew and loved. In service of the neighborhoods and the people, he believes that becoming the message is far stronger than merely stating it.
We don't want to spend a lot of time talking about God's love when God is sort of looking at her watch and saying, why are you talking? Just love. Don't talk about how compassionate God is. Let's get going. Let's be compassionate. Don't say, isn't God merciful? What God's awaiting is that we be merciful with each other.
Thousands of gang members need help. HOMEBOY Industries serve those who want help. Kids released from prison or probation camp or juvenile hall. Kids who are fed up with peddling drugs or living on tainted earnings. Kids who Father Greg believes, beneath their hatred and the hostility, possess talents and even gifts.
I don't ever see this bad person. In fact, quite the opposite. I mean, the day won't ever come when I'm closer to God.
El Salvador, el país más hermoso del mundo. El Salvador tiene costas que nos dejan sin respiración. El Salvador tiene playas que nos invitan. El Salvador tiene montañas, bosques, un hermoso verdor tropical. También El Salvador tiene diferentes tipos de gente. Y la gente tiene cosas en común. Un sentimiento de orgullo por su país y son amantes de los deportes. Este año, los Juegos Centroamericanos y del Caribe vienen a El Salvador.
Where did it begin, this organization that matches needs to services? Like the story of Isaac Newton sitting under an apple tree when the notion of gravity occurred to him, the Mexican-American Opportunity Foundation was also born under a tree, an avocado tree, where a young Dionisio Morales was resting one day. In the 1930s, Dionisio Morales was a poor kid in the town of Moore Park. Back then, it was still an agricultural outpost of LA's suburban sprawl, but even then, it was a world apart. Mexican Americans were kept from the local schools and movie houses, and public signs read, "No dogs or Mexicans allowed in the swimming pool."
When we boil it down to, you're born Mexican, you're of Mexican descent, then you become a minority.
This is the proposed SIPPIE Clinic of San Fernando, a new therapeutic treatment center that would include a complex of 2 single-story buildings with open courtyards that will offer a supportive, stimulating, and home-like environment in a safe, pleasant, and comfortable setting. Services include counseling, horticulture therapy, woodworking, and vocational activities. Today, this is what is on the land where the clinic would be: a vacant building, abandoned and deteriorating, a place where transients have broken into to live and sleep, others to commit crimes and deface whatever they can. A few people would argue that the site as it stands today is neither attractive, nor safe, nor useful. Instead, left as it is, the property will only get worse, a future hiding place for unseen strangers who may pose a greater threat to nearby families and their children, an eyesore that will only drive down property values for the entire area. Or this could happen. You could help bring new hope for people, human beings too, just like you and me, who through no fault of their own suffer. They suffer from a silent, unseen, difficult condition that affects their ability to express thoughts, not their ability to feel, to care, love, or be loved. It's called schizophrenia.
The greatest amount of freedom requires the greatest measure of discipline. The words of Cesar Chavez, realized every day in California, for millions, different lives, different backgrounds, different challenges, yet the same quest for freedom. And yet for some more than others, freedom carries a steep price. To toil, sacrifice, struggle each and every day of their lives. Disciplined, rising early, working all day, ending at day's end to realize their dream. And yet, their dream is the same as ours, to provide a better life for themselves and their families, earning their way with their own sweat. Theirs is the American dream of hope for a new life.